So let's get into it, y'all. This election season, I think a lot of folks like to think of the midterm elections as something that isn't that exciting, but it is in Oakland because we do have an election for the mayor. And at Alameda County, we are, always have the district attorney's race as part of
Hmm.
the election as well. So it is not like a downtime for us. It's definitely a big one. And it looks like about 52% of the electorate who have the ability to vote in Oakland and Alameda County came out to vote, which is
Hmm.
about average on for a midterm election year. I don't think 2020 is something that we can count as something because it seemed like an anomaly given the presidential election and how heightened it was. But yeah, let's get into it. Let's start with Alameda County. And let's start with the big news. Pam Price, who ran in 2018, ran again this time and resounding win, right?
Yeah.
She won by 26,643 votes, y'all. That is no
Amazing.
small number. That is a huge number. And I feel like that's a mandate from Alameda County saying we need a different system. Whether or not they completely agree with the system that Pam is bringing, but it definitely is saying we need something different. I'm wondering how you two are feeling about it.
I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I think yeah, it's a resounding message, like you said, that folks in Alameda County want to see change. And the people that has been part of the change or been part of the system, people don't want still, talking about criminal justice reform. And I think, major part of why she won by so much is because her opponent was, he was in the DA's office for 32 years, and then you come now talking about reforms. That doesn't make any sense. You didn't bend the parameters. You didn't act with courage and leadership to change nothing while you was there. So how can we expect you to get elected and do something different? So Pamela Price coming with, understanding that folks have mental health issues, understanding we need diversion programs, understanding like that, youth make mistakes and deserve second chances. That is really powerful. That's what I think her platform was, justice with compassion. And that's exactly what we need in the criminal injustice system. To me, it's always injustice. It was founded on injustice. But I think, with the right person, those parameters can be bent a little bit to favor community and start to like create some incremental changes as well as some structural changes with the community having a voice at the table. So I'm looking forward to what that accountability measures look like and how we move forward with this monumental win. And it's the first, black person as a DA in Alameda County and a black woman at that. So, props on so many different levels.
So I wanted to, I want to hear from you, Jose, on this because I mean, given that the DA's role will still be, no matter with whatever changes are coming, the role of the DA is to incarcerate people. And so I wonder what your thoughts are about it, and then also just thinking about what what do you think Pam needs to prepare for, given like the lessons that we've learned from the recall of Chesa Boudin in San Francisco district
Hmm.
attorney, and what that might mean for Alameda County. We're obviously two very different counties, San Francisco and who San Francisco County is now, city and county is now, is so different from the one that I know you and I grew up in. But and displacement has changed the demographic in Alameda County. Immigration has changed the demographic in Alameda County. So I wonder, given all of those different factors, like what are your thoughts about her coming on board?
Yeah, no, I really echo a lot of what Sabir just said, and it really is not just a historical moment for Alameda County. I think it really is right now at a time when, um, quote unquote, progressive district attorneys, that has been under attack and it's been polarized and it's been in the media, you know what I mean? Like it's been out there. This really sends a message, to not just the Alameda County, California, the nation, Because, I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about, how Price had lost, how much media there would have been around this,
Right.
basically saying, people are tired of crime and all this other stuff, and it would have been all over the news, here, but because she won, you notice there's less media attention. There's media attention obviously out there, right? But the
Right.
message out there the media isn't putting is, we're tired of locking black and brown folks up. We need complete change. We need an overhaul of the system. It's not
That's
out
right.
there as much. And so what that says is that, like, man, with Pamela in office, and as someone also that has worked really closely in the county and follows the politics of the county, let me tell you, it's not just about criminal justice reform. It's also about really challenging the entire system in Alameda County, because it is a very status quo system. And so if I were a board of supervisor right now, if I was a sheriff, controller, I'd be sweating right now, knowing that Pamela is about to go in office. You know what I mean? And so
That's what's
back, yeah, to your question, Liz, about I'm not confused about what the DA's office is, right? And there
right.
there are going to be contradictions, that we're going to have. There are going to be disagreements that we're going to have. But fundamentally, I think somebody like Pamela's Price heart is in the right place. They're going to have to make some tough choices, but I feel pretty good about their willingness to work with community, and to really move on where they can, to really make sure that we don't continue the same failed approaches, which is a very punitive, very backwards approach to keeping us safe. And so I feel pretty good about Pamela working with us.
That's what's up.
Mhm.
I think also one thing that for Pamela Price, Madam DA, at this point, let's put some respect on that, because she really ran a really hard campaign. I mean, Terry Wiley came at her neck every
Mhm.
forum, every town hall, every time he shared a space with her, he came at her with some really misogynistic, like,
Mhm.
things, and it was awful to watch. For her to stand in face of that, I think tells you a lot about what intentions she's going to bring to the DA's office. I'm just concerned about, I think rightly so, a lot of folks are concerned about, like, what kind of sweeping changes are coming, right? Like, is she going to come in like Chesa did, and just like Chesa Bodine did, and just like cut the department, and just chop, chop, chop. And from what I heard from Pamela Price in different forums and in different conversations with her, is she's not thinking about it that way. She knows that if she comes in with that type of stance, that that we're just going to have a situation where that isn't going to rest well with anybody. So what are the ways in which, I'm curious about, what are the ways in which she's going to bring the department along in a way that will make the changes that we all need and want to see, but also isn't going to create the kind of turmoil and opposition that we saw in San Francisco. I know it's coming, because the very, very right is, who they are, and that's all they do is really come out swinging on things. But those are things I'm hopeful for. We did lose the Board of Supervisor race, and Rebecca Kaplan did not win. She lost against Lena Tam, and Lena had a much more conservative stance. I think we all have to think about and frame this that all these folks are Democrats, right? And so the nuanced nature of Alameda County and Oakland and the Bay is that we're fighting between neoliberals and super progressive folks, right? Or in a spectrum of that. And so Lena Tam being a little bit more moderate on a Democratic side, more corporate Dem. I wonder what you all are thinking about in terms of Alameda County. And I'll give that to Jose first, because I know that you all do, Ala Baker Center does a lot more focused work at the county level. So yes, and agree that the county supervisor districts are gerrymandered. And so what would that look like for us as we move forward with this now fully conservative Board of Supervisors? What are you looking forward to on, Jose?
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean it's gerrymandering real 100%. You know, the whole redistricting that happened you know, last year, this year, very real thing. I think Rebecca Kaplan has a lot of name recognition, and you know, has a long history of working in the community with community. But she ran a campaign that wasn't just Oakland, right? It was Alameda
Right.
and San Lorenzo, and Lena Tam, that's her district, you know, and a lot of the voters actually came from those districts, Alameda and San Lorenzo, and so you know, we have to contend with the fact that is what it is, and unfortunately, it's hard to grasp for me how Lena Tam will legislate, how Lena Tam will govern, you know, in that seat, because it's a much different environment working in a county than a city like Alameda, serving in an Alameda City Council. You know, that said, I do have concerns over some of the positions that she has taken publicly. You know, based on her campaign, things that she put up on her website. There was a mailer that was sent out. You know, to be fair, it was an independent expenditure, I think, so it didn't come directly from her,
Right.
but it was targeting Rebecca Kaplan, and it had quotes and testimonials from sheriff's deputies of why they endorse and support Lena Tam. Lena Tam also had a lot of support from the apartment association, the landlords,
Right.
and so those are flags, those are concerns, you know. But I think in the interest of our folks, our people, you know, we're gonna have to give Lena Tam a chance, right? Where we're gonna have to do the best we can to work with her, you know, and move her, and if she does good things, great, you know, we got your back, and if you don't, you know what I mean, like you know, we're gonna have to hold you accountable, and so I wish, you know, sincerely wish Lena Tam luck, and hope that we can work collaboratively, and I hope that she can really represent all Alameda County, because even though she's in her district, you know, there's only 5 of them, and they have a lot of power over the budget, over accountability. You know, they basically serve the function of both a mayor, a council person. You know what I mean? Like, and
Right.
so yeah, so we're here to work with her, and it's unfortunate that you know, Kaplan didn't make it, but here we are. So
That's right. And you know, I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
be clear that folks can know, right? Because one of the messagings that came out of San Francisco and across the country against these quote unquote progressive, and we're saying quote unquote because we're not quite sure if we can call them progressive, right? They're reformist in many ways, but the progressive DAs, they were blamed for things like homelessness and housing
Mm-hmm.
and crime. And these are actually things that the district attorney does not do. They prosecute.
Mm-hmm.
They charge people and then make recommendations for incarceration, right? They do not take care of homelessness. That is the county's. This is one of the things I think folks need to understand is those resources are in totally different places, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so the district attorney's office has a huge budget to do what they do, and they have ability to do it differently by offering diversion programs and offering opportunities for people and assistance, right? I heard Pam this morning on KPFA with Kat Brooks talking about how
Mm-hmm.
he wants to really go after without criminalizing those who were trafficked, right? Sex trafficked, that going after the perpetrators of that sex trafficking. And so like that's a different framing that we haven't heard from the current district attorney, but we need to be looking at Lena Tam because she is one of the board of supervisors who is now following in the legacy of Wilma Chan, who had for a very long time been the lone voice on the board of supervisors who were really fighting to get health care, get mental health services, fight against, voting against increases to the sheriff's department. So these are things I think that Lena is going to have to really contend with that are really true. And I think on top of name recognition in those areas that Lena played, that we have to remember that Alameda, San Lorenzo, and San Leandro, where she won resoundingly and carried the vote in, is a very large Asian population. And I think there were identity politics there that played into that I don't want to ignore, that as we get more data and see like who actually voted, my guess is that many of them are Asian folks. And Lena ran on a lot of fear around, API, quote unquote, API hate. I hate that term myself, but like violence against Asians and Asian elders, I think, is one of those things that was utilized in these campaigns to like put fear in people to push forward with more stronger policing kind of stances. So I wonder for you, as I want to then just briefly talk, Saabir, about Assembly District 20, where Liz Ortega, who is the head of the Alameda County Labor Council, she won fairly big in 80-20, and now is headed to the Assembly. So I'm wondering your thoughts about that, and what kind of things you're looking forward to her being in that role, because y'all do so much worker justice work.
Right. Yeah. And we worked, really close with Liz when she was in the, Alameda Labor Council. And kind of just, and that's also another, just a great win. We believe, systems change, even politics, when we talk about local politics, national politics, like it's moved from the ground up. So it comes from the local level, the move up into higher electoral positions to create greater change that we want to see. But yeah, so we're looking for stuff like, greater worker protections. Definitely. And not just worker protections, but a holistic approach to the worker, meaning that a person just don't need to have stable income, right? Like a living wage income, but a person need to have, mental health services. A person need childcare. You know what I'm saying? There's all these things that's attached to the worker that make him almost impossible to hold a position or to maintain a job when you're impacted by society as a whole. There's affordable housing measures, so we're looking for this intersectionality, comprehensive approach to supporting workers that ultimately support everyone as a whole, where there's affordable housing, environmental impacts, like these are the things that are addressing the issues that are actually like some of the theme that is in this conversation right now, right? The misanalyzation of public safety. Public safety is resources in the community that will prevent the opportunities to do crime or like to combat historical policies for displacement, and these are the things that's the real crime. Like we look at crime and we say, some violent act, but it's actually the policies and stuff that's initiated that create the incubator for violence and crime due to the lack of resources. So we would hope that, Liz would come with a very comprehensive approach to, the work that she's been doing to support workers, to support unions, to support people as a whole, and ensure like that those policy initiative, ballot measures, anything that is passed has a holistic approach to it that has a trickle down effect. That is really important.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always worried about when I hear trickle down, but like, but I hear you. I hear what you're saying. I saw that in the chat. There was some folks that really wanted to move and think and listen about some of the things that are happening in Oakland, and the mayoral race specifically. But I wanted to go over very quickly some of the ballot measures because this is one of the things that I noticed about out in Oakland is that the ballot measures on whole as a package were really progressive. We had stuff around housing, just cause amendments, increasing protection for tenants. We have the democracy dollars that now is coming into play. We have the progressive business tax, and those won resoundingly, like huge numbers. Like Measure W was the Fair Elections Oakland, the democracy dollars won by 74%. Like that's huge number. And we want a progressive majority on city council, right? Which also won resoundingly as well. Like I think Nikki Fortunato Bass in D2, Janani Ramachandran in D4, and Kevin Jenkins in D6 won by over 60% in each of those seats. Like that's not a small number, right? And so by contrast, though, it was like, to me, what I saw was and then I forgot to mention, then in OUSD, we saw now we will have 4 out of the 7 seats in OUSD school board will also be progressive as well. And those also won fairly resoundingly. I'm going to leave out D4 in that conversation because I think that was a little unique. But as a whole, it made me feel like all of that talk about how this city is really divided is actually not true. That the narrative is that we all really want people to be housed. We all really want our corporations to pay their fair share. We all want to see infrastructure. We want to see housing. We want to see those things in place. And we know that these folks are willing to do that work. And so how do we get that, right? Who are going to really work for that? So for me, it felt really good to see that as somebody who grew up here in Oakland and works here in Oakland, and like my kids go to school here in Oakland. Like that for me was like, oh yeah, that's why I love Oakland. Because across the city, we are much more aligned on things than we are told we are not, right? And so I'm just wondering, just your overall reaction, like minus the mayoral seat, which we'll talk about, but your overall reaction to some of these really big wins in Oakland. Let's start with you, Jose. Like, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, everything you said, and you know, I hate to contrast or compare with San Francisco, right? But Oakland really is a working class town. You know what I mean? These is hardworking, working class folks, black, brown, you know, folks, all kinds of folks, you know, and you know, the message that folks sent in Oakland, right, is that like what you said, you know, we want you know, leaders, and we want measures that are going to support us. We don't want to vote for things that are against us. We don't want to, you know, continue giving, you know, these massive tax breaks to corporations. We don't want, you know, politicians that are going to go in there and promise you something and do the other thing, or, you know, make backroom deals with developers and, you know, focus on
Lauren Taylor.
Focus on
Oh, sorry.
on increasing policing budget while folks are out, you know, literally dying on the streets, you know, because they can't find shelter, you know, and so it made me proud, really. It did make me proud of Oakland, you know, and again, I hate to compare it, you know, to, and I can say this because I'm actually from Frisco, you know, I could talk smack about Frisco, but
that's what's up. It's a dire situation in San Francisco.
Man.
That, like, talk about gerrymandering. The impact in San Francisco is great. Like, to now see that the Board of Supervisors is not progressive. That's the first time I've seen San Francisco move in that direction. I was like, "Whoa, that's shocking." But it did put me on alert. Like, it made me worried about like the future of Oakland, because it might come towards this direction, but this election showed me a little differently.
Yeah, definitely. You even have like the new DA for San Francisco. I mean, they're talking about criminalizing people who have substance abuse issues. I mean, that was her platform. Lock them up,
Right?
those who sell and use. I'm like, what is that? Like, seriously.
I mean, we had some mayoral candidates saying that shit too, right? Here in Oakland, but like I see here in the chat, like someone put MB Dot put really hopeful about progressive lean in the incoming city council. And just to be very clear, again, we've said it here before, you know, no ballot measure, no candidate is perfect and is not going to save us. It really does take people power. So once we get them in office, we need to lean on them hard. We need to co-govern with them. And then also really leaning hard on the work that needs to be done in implementation of some of those ballot measures. So all of y'all who are watching and joining and watching later, like, tap in, y'all. Like, you know, this is a call for you all to like move beyond your vote. Like, it's not just about voting, you need to be continuously to stay active with us, stay active with Ella Baker Center, stay active with eBase and all of the other partner organizations or any progressive organization here in Oakland that are moving stuff. I really want to put that out there. And just to also be clear too, just so folks know, is City Council by our charter cannot direct city staff, right? And what they do is they are the legislative body of Oakland. So they put out the budget, which we'll be fighting for June in 2023. So starting in January, this will be our new focus, is focusing on the city budget and also the county budget. But so tap into those things as we move those forward. But remember that the city council does legislation, and it is the city administrator and the mayor who runs the city, who is actually in charge of implementation of those things, right? And so, you know, I like to use the example of Measure Z, which eBase did a lot of work around, and we did work on getting, which was to get the Department of Workforce Employment Standards, right? The WES, DWES, and they just put out the job description. We won that in 2018, y'all, and we're still waiting for the administration to like implement that, right? And so, so I just want to put that out there so that folks remember that, like, when you're focused on your city council member, what you're talking to them about needs to be about the legislation, needs to be about, you know, around the budget. And they also do some services in your community, right? So like, for example, Fortunato Bass in District 2 has done a lot of the funding that she gets. She's put into getting folks the tiny home parcel on East 12th, and then getting like electronic kitchen appliances for residents there, right? Whereas by contrast, we see some other city council members who don't do that work, right? So what does that look like, and who are they looking out for, I think is really important. But any thoughts about that?
Yeah, even investing in like on our parks and recs, you know, Nikki revitalized the tennis court, you know, giving folks opportunities to have like, you know, nice, decent recreation and stuff like that. But I think, yeah, you hit it all on the nail. And was really like profound for me is I think like folks voted based upon like folks that they could relate to. You know, folks that were standing on the issues of, like you mentioned, affordable housing, job opportunities, healthy environments, you know, folks that was kind of like speaking from their heart about what they would like to do or the change that they would like to see, right? Like, how do we fix a broken system, right? And you fix a broken system by doing the right thing. Of course, there's going to be a lot of accountability. But I love the idea, and I don't know if we're segueing into the situation or into the mayor's race or not, but I think like it is really critical that people understand the difference between a legislative body and an administrative body. You know what I'm saying? The mayor's office is the administrative body. So when folks want to see like, why isn't anything being done? It's because it's stonewalled at the administrative body, which with the mayor controls, right? So, and I think that's one of the things that's really critical about the mayor's race, right? Because the person who becomes mayor, if they have a great relationship with the council, then city council can do a lot for their districts. You know, they can create initiatives. They can, you know, get money for programs and services and parks and recs and fixing the streets and community ambassadors, like all the things that people want to see for change, they could do if there's a good relationship between their part and the administrative part. So it's really critical. That's why the mayor race is going to be really critical. You know, in Shanghai, we have someone that has the relationships to be able to build those relationships. And Lauren Taylor, I think we just going to have some of the same old system Oakland has been a very heavy mayoral city, and it's been that way for a long time. And when you see like things not being done, it's because the mayor's office haven't been implementing the changes that the legislative body council has been wanting to see done on behalf of their constituents. And that's how it works. You know, it's really simple and clear. You know, you have district representatives that hear the cries from the community. They try to enact change. and the mayor's office will either implement or stop or hinder, stagnate, impede, like all these things, if there's not alignment. And for the new mayor that's coming in, we need alignment
That's
for Oakland to really see a good change, and I would just highlight all the wins, right? Because
yeah.
even on the state level, right, there's, laws being passed for like formerly incarcerated folks to clean their record up now. It used to be a juvenile law. Now it's even for adults, right? So we've seen a progressive change all the way around the board. And in Oakland itself, right, we have a DA that cares about the people. We have progressive majority on city council. And then we get a progressive mayor. Oakland looks a lot different.
That's right. That's right. And I want to just address what Mickey 2016 put in the chat, like people need to get paid enough money to live. And I agree. We completely agree with that. We agree with that the rising costs and the arbitrary way that corporations just kind of inflate prices and costs and continue to make billions and billions of dollars, which is why we think that the progressive business tax was one big win for us, is to be able to hold them accountable by making them pay more of their fair share from taxation. And I think I think that's just one small pot, right, of money that they make billions. I mean, you all saw that news last week where Bezos was talking about he's going to give $86 million, $1 billion of his money away. And that same day, they said there were 8 billion people in this world, on this earth. And he gave $1 billion to every single person. Like, he would still have hella billions left over. So, like, it is really arbitrary. And some of that for us is something that, we are trying to make some of those big changes. And what does being involved in sort of this electoral process help push the agenda in those systems, in the current system, knowing that it's broken, pushing it in a way that either eventually it will topple or eventually will work in our favor. And we're trying to really to make that happen. So let's move on.
Yeah.
Up on our time. We want to get to one of the biggest pieces, which is the mayoral race. I think the three of us, we could probably talk for days on this shit. So, but I will say, for folks, is that there is a few more votes that need to be counted. It is a really close race. The difference between, according to the ranked choice voting at this point, is that Sheng Tao has a 680 vote lead over Lauren Taylor. I think we're going to take a bigger dive later.
That's not that much.
Later down the line. It is not a mandate. This is not a mandate to Sheng winning or to saying that. But there are still a few thousand votes that need to potentially be counted. It's not clear from the county what it is, but there are votes that need to be cured. That means, like, for example, people put out, sign their vote, their ballot envelope, and the signature didn't match, or they forgot to sign it. There's a few votes that need to be counted to be cured for that. So we're hoping today will be the day that we maybe get the final count or closer to a final count. There's just a lot to still be said in this race because it's so close. But Jose, I'm just wondering for you, like, what are you thinking about in terms of any concerns that you have either way? Because like I said earlier, no candidate is perfect. And so I'm wondering any thoughts that you have about, what kind of changes are coming to our mayoral seat.
Yeah. Well, first, let me just say one of the biggest winners from the mayor's race. I just need to shout it out, man. It's Alyssa Victory, because even though Alyssa didn't come in first, man, let me tell you, Alyssa came in within striking distance. She was significantly underfunded to some of these other candidates, like problematic Ignacio de la Fuente, who had tons of money, packs coming in. And Alyssa came in strong, ran a grassroots campaign, didn't do any of that wishy-washy stuff where, switched on positions, stayed true to her message, had a grassroots campaign on my own personal time. I was even there, you know what I mean? Because I actually believed in resonated with me, what the message. And so I think one of the biggest winners is Alyssa in terms of like a political force to be reckoned with. A lot of the second place votes from Alyssa
That's
actually
right.
went to Shang Tao. And so I
That's
don't
what
know
tipped
where
it.
we would be right now
That's what tipped
Clearly, clearly.
it.
And
you know
I
what I
think
mean?
that shows that when you align as a progressive force, right, and when you come out strong that way, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get results, right? And
Yep.
whereas like Greg Hodge wasn't really clear about, that voice and alignment with Shang Tao. And, now his majority of his votes actually went to Lauren Taylor.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
identity
Yeah.
politics too, though.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so I think right now it's but let's not jinx it. You know what I mean? Because there are, you know what I mean? Like there are still votes that need to be counted. This is a very, very, very close race, and I know I would be surprised if there wasn't some kind of recount or some kind of like lengthier process. Until we know the final results. But yeah, let's wait for the final results. I think yeah, that's what I'm saying. I am concerned, about the race, because it hasn't been, decided just yet. It's looking good. It's looking good for Tao. But it does concern me. Between now and the final, like, certification, I guess. And I'd be shocked. I'd be surprised if there wasn't some kind of recount. If there isn't already a call for it, I don't know. But, yeah. Curious, Saabir, what you
Hearing,
Oh, I think
folks.
Jose kind of just hit it on the nail. Like everything he said was hit it on the nail. So I think I'll just kind of like jump in a different angle with it. And I would just say like this race also has shown us the importance of being in alignment, being really strategic, when we're trying to like support folks with that ranked choice voting strategy. It's like name recognition, like all of that. Like De La Fuente, I mean, he got so many votes. Like this, just surely just on name recognition, right? And then he had all that money that came in for him. Yeah, it's just I think like as progressives, as movement builders, we have to be really strategic in how we move forward, to ensure like victories, right? And like to put the proper support behind folks. Because even like you say, that ranked choice voting strategy was critical. And I think like what we call the non-progressive, the Lauren Taylor side, the De La Fuente, or even on the identity politics piece where it was like, oh, we just need a black mayor, when all people that skin folk ain't kinfolk. And that's just how it go, right? So on a movement side, on our side, we have to be a little more aggressive, a little more, strategic. And because again, Shane went over the edge based on Alyssa's votes. It was like Alyssa's tools that went to her that moved it over. So I think there's some lessons learned. And then also like, yeah, I don't want to jinx it either. There's still a lot of stuff that we have to count. So I'm just sitting because like I spoke to about earlier, right? Whether the administrative branch or the legislative branch get along, that's really going to make a difference in how our progressive council can move.
That's right.
We can have a progressive council and then we can push forth a people budget. Each one of these councils can try to like push any initiative and policies to benefit the districts and the constituents of their districts. But if we don't have that mayor in place that's going to be in alignment with those ideals and those issues and those concerns and stonewall it, then, it's handicapped and we won't see no movement still. So it's really important that, we win this so that we have the alignment. We can see the change that we want to see. Right. And I mean, it's the same as with, I didn't speak much about even with the board of supervisor piece, but, again, you're talking about a body that kind of create policy, oversee policy too themselves. So when we're talking about, we don't have funding for mental health services and stuff like that, these are the things that we're talking about. So all these pieces have to move together and function as a unit in order for us to be successful. So I'm staying prayed up and, a lot of the work that we do is going to be able to be achieved. Are we dealing with the same status quo? So how do we continue to build power and win power for real sustainable change?
That's what's up. That's what's up. And I think that I love that you're ending on what does power look like and like how
Hmm.
do we build it? You know, folks need to tap in with eBase, right? Go to God, what's the website? Working East Bay.
Working East Bay.
Workingeastbay.org.
Hmm.
Go to elebakercenter.org. You can follow both of them on, social media through Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, I'm sure. And tap in because these are the people who are
Hmm.
actually doing that work, who are building
Yeah.
with their members, with their folks, their community, and organizing in those spaces. Check out the work that they're doing because that I think is ultimately where some of those big changes are going to happen. Because you all see some of the stuff that might be out there right now. Thank you for putting that in there, Ella Baker Center. But like, putting that out there is going to be really important because we do the work on the inside. We do leverage our power on the outside and push against folks, but we are also doing the long time work that we have been doing for, decades. And so
Yeah.
if you want to tap into the budget process that we're coming up on for 2023, tap into oaklandrising.org, get on our newsletter. You can also donate by going the same website. Those are the things that are going to sustain the work. And volunteer with us, y'all, because we talk to so many folks. We talk to folks around the ballot measures. We talk to folks around, and we use the electoral system to talk to voters and get people energized. We
Hmm.
just won the democracy dollars, so we're going to have to implement that and put it up against the administration to make sure that implementation happens. And then we got to tell you all how to use it. It's going to be so important. So join us because that's what we really need is to build that movement work. So thank you both. I know, again, the three of us could probably go on and on and on. Healing vibes out and energy to Shakita Reddick, who
Hmm.
from Kazuhusa Just Cause, who was supposed to join us today but wasn't feeling well. So big healing energy to her so she can heal up. It was a big win for Kazuhusa. And for Just Cause amendments and to tenants across the city. So thank you both.
For
Mad love
Thanks,
to
sure.
y'all. Take care.
and
Yeah.
we'll
Blessings.
talk soon.